Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy South Carolina fan here. And yeah, this is currently being filmed after my update video. And as you can see in the title below, bowl games. Are they still worth playing? Now, if you read the news, you would see that Notre Dame opted out just because they didn't get picked for the 12-team playoff. Now, if you look at this team last year, they obviously didn't get picked. I mean, they came up close. They came up real close, but didn't make it. And you know what they did? They still played the bowl game. They didn't quit. They still played. But not only that, you got some other teams that opt out. You know, Kansas State and what's that other team that opted out? Fuck, I can't remember the name. I can't remember who. But anyway, I know they're Big 12. I just can't seem to remember. But Kansas State and somebody else opted out, which allowed at least two teams that were 5 and 7 to go to a bowl game, and a couple opted out, such as Florida State and Auburn. And it took forever. Like that one bowl game, Birmingham Bowl. It took forever to find their second opponent until they got one, and that was Appalachian State. And with that, the bowl game will be between Georgia Southern and Appalachian State. They're both in the same conference. And usually when it comes to a bowl game, it's two teams from different conferences playing each other. But this year, it had to be two from the same conference because a whole lot of teams just decided to opt out. Which begs the question, are bowl games really worth it? Now, yeah, I'm still got the, I got a tickle in my throat, you know. It's really bothering the hell out of me. I can't scratch the fucking thing. But anyway, if you go back in the day, like the 1950 season, that was, Oklahoma finished the season, I think, undefeated. Now things were different back then, where if you finished the regular season number 1, then congrats, you just won the national championship. And then comes the bowl games, where it wouldn't matter if you were the number 1 team in the country and you lost your bowl game, you were still crowned national champion. I mean, because I believe it was the Sugar Bowl that season. Kentucky would defeat the national champion Oklahoma, and obvious, which would make Kentucky like claim the title, the 1950 title, but they're pretty much not recognized as national champions that season. National champions still went to Oklahoma that time. You know, bowl games at the time were basically just played for fun. You know, but then over time, like I think it was either the 60s or the 70s, where you would have to finish number 1 after the bowl games in order to be national champions. And then we get into the 90s, where now I wasn't alive at the time that this was going on. Some certain bowl games, you know, I'm a little confused, by that time between 92 and 97 on how they determined the national champion. Because you take a look at the 97 season, there were two national champions that year. And then comes the BCS, which was basically a bowl game, aka the national championship game, like the first one, the Fiesta Bowl, also the national championship, basically the Fiesta Bowl national championship game, which was between Tennessee and Florida State, and Tennessee would win that game and be national champions. Okay, now I'm starting to lose point here. I'm starting to lose point here of what I'm saying. So are they even worth it? Now bowl games are basically the FBS, this sport that is here in the football that the NCAA offers. It's basically the only one that does this. You take a look at the FCS, of course they only have one bowl game, and that basically determines who the HBCU national champion is. But and that's it. Postseason playoffs. And in college basketball, they do something similar, kind of similar. They have tournaments. Now, if you don't make the NCAA tournament, there's other tournaments such as the NIT, the CBI, CIT, those type of tournaments, as well as in women's basketball. The WNIT, the WBI. I'm not sure if that's still going on. But you get my point. They're kind of like bowl games, except you play multiple games. You get my point. But then you got other sports that don't do this shit, where you don't make the NCAA tournament, your season's done. Baseball, your season's done. Ice hockey, your season's done. Lacrosse, your season's done. Tennis, your season's done. So are bowl games even still worth it? Now, bowl games have been a thing for a long time. Since 1902, where the first Rose Bowl game was played. It was a different name back at the time. Tournament of Roses game, I think that's what it was called back then. I'll have to relook into that. But yeah, since the first Rose Bowl game, more and more bowl games were added. Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, Peach Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, you name it. And then you get all these bowl games from different sponsors. Some bowl games that don't even exist anymore, such as the Copper Bowl, Blockbuster Bowl, CarQuest Bowl, PapaJohns.com Bowl, Outback Bowl, Of course, at the time, you would have to have like a certain record, or just be really good. But then there were times where you didn't have a good season. You still had a winning season, but you still got picked anyway. And then obviously during the 2000s decade, it wouldn't matter if you had 6 wins. There was still a chance where you wouldn't make a bowl game. 7 wins would definitely put you in a spot in a bowl game. Like look what happened to this team in 2007. Finished a record of 6-6. Didn't get picked because obviously there wasn't a whole lot of bowl games back then, but then more and more started getting added. And then in 2015, that really hit the mark. And there were some bowl games that were going to be added but didn't because during that time they realized, okay, we have too many now because we're going to have to include a team with a losing record. Like there was supposed to be a bowl game in Charleston that was going to be played starting in the 2016 season, but didn't because they realized they'd add too many. And there was going to be one in Melbourne, Australia in 2016, but it didn't happen because there were too many bowl games. And then they were like, all right, let's just not add any more bowl games at the moment because we currently have too many. We're starting to put teams with a losing record in there. And then as a few years go by, a few teams got switched from the FCS to the FBS. That kind of caused at least one or two bowl games to get added, such as the Myrtle Beach Bowl, the Fenway Bowl, the LA Bowl. Of course, that bowl game just got played, and from what I heard, it's now dead. I'm just hearing that bowl game that got played back on Saturday would be the last because there's not going to be one in 2016. And then you go into 2020, of course, with the pandemic. So they made that one special rule for that season only, and that's anyone, no matter what your record is, can be invited to a bowl game because they knew that teams were going to opt out because of them getting affected by the pandemic and shit. I'm not gonna say it because I know YouTube can be a bit sensitive about this type of topic, but you know what I mean. And now here we are in 2025. Teams are starting to with this NIL shit. Teams are starting to opt out. There's a bowl game that I loved to death, and that was known as the Bahamas Bowl. Yet for some reason, doesn't get played this year, and we don't know what the future of that bowl game is. But luckily, they replaced it with another bowl game, and that's the Xbox Bowl. Even though Microsoft with Xbox is currently dying and trying to keep their console, going. And like I said, they need to switch to third party because, they just can't compete when it comes to consoles. And you take a look at the LA Bowl, barely anyone showed up for that bowl game. So it all comes down to this one basic question. Are bowl games still worth it? Now this is my personal opinion, but to me, I think they are still worth it. And I'll tell you why. Because if you're a senior in college, you're an athlete in your whole college career, you didn't make the postseason until this one year, your senior year, your fifth year of being a senior, your final year of eligibility. You finally make the postseason. Would you play it? And Of course, if I was a college football player, you know damn well right I would play in it, even if it doesn't make me money, even if it affects the way I get drafted. I would still play in it because you would want, obviously, at least once in your college career, would you want to make would you want to clinch a spot in post? That's still considered postseason. A bowl game is still considered postseason, even though it's not considered a championship and all. But it gives you a chance to at least win something. You know. So yeah, I still do think that bowl games are still worth it. You know, it's and it's one of my favorite times of years. Favorite time of year, that is. Just goddamn tickle. Just to watch these teams play. Watch these players play with their team one last time. Stop licking. Just one more chance. If you finally got a chance to play in a postseason, even if it's not even if you didn't win the conference championship, or even got a chance to win the national championship, even you know what I mean. This will be like your only opportunity to at least win something. So yeah, I still do think that college bowl games are still worth playing. So yeah, that's all I gotta say in this video. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I don't really give a shit. And also subscribe or unsubscribe. Don't give a shit. And also follow me on Twitch and also Twitter, even though I'm not really active on there. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. It's your boy South Carolina Fan, and I'll see you all next time. Later.